Does it pay to be good? This is a question we often ask ourselves out of frustration when our efforts to do good backfire and when we end up causing harm even when we intended the opposite. But this question should be asked philosophically. Does it pay to be good? And when we pose this question seriously, we must ask in two parts. The first is, does it pay for me to be good? And the second is, does it pay for the beneficiary of my goodness and generosity? The first question should probably be answered, at least in most cases, in the negative. It usually does not pay for me to be good. And if we expect dividends from our ethical investments, then we are going to be inevitably disappointed. We don't do good because we expect to receive good. That makes the good less virtuous and also makes it inevitably lead to a sense of injustice or unfairness. The real question is the second one. Does it pay to be good for the beneficiary of my kindness? And at first glance, it would obviously be good for someone when I do good for them. But it's often not that simple. And we must consider other factors like the timing, like giving in excess, or the short-term versus long-term damage. And here there's really no uniform answer. We need to use wisdom and maturity to deliberate in order to foretell whether our generosity will prove helpful or harmful. This is the frame that Rabbi Lamb constructs for Parshat Shelach, in particular the question of sending the spies. Did it pay to send the spies? In the recapitulation of this episode in Dvarim, we see that it seemed to serve a purpose for Moshe. As Moshe summarizes the narrative, he says, Vayitav be'enei hadavar, at the very beginning of Sefer Dvarim, that it was good in my eyes, that it was good for me, ve'ekach mikem shneim asar anashim ish echad lashebet, that it was good for me, for each of the tribes, to take one leader and to send them. Rabbi Lamb wonders whether or not this was actually good for the Jewish people, or whether this was good just for Moshe. And in a somewhat critical with examination of Moshe, Rabbi Lamb suggests that Moshe had trouble saying no to the request of the people to scout out the land before going to conquer it, because Moshe was exasperated by the demands of the people. And so this was the easy way to get them off his back, by giving into that request. It was good for Moshe to be able to send the spies because he hoped that it would just give more credibility to the promise of Moshe, to the promise of Hashem, that this was a good land and it would be easy to capture. But the plan backfired when the report that was brought back caused the people to be dispirited and uninspired to conquer the land. And here we see that Moshe should not have submitted to the pressure of the people. He should not have, he tried to do good, but it didn't pay. He was too soft, and he was not thoughtful enough in terms of the long-term risk and consequences of the decision to send spies. So all of us must learn in our personal and professional, and especially our family lives, that it doesn't always pay to be good. Sometimes we intend to be kind and generous, and we're only inviting trouble later on for the very one whom, out of love, we seek to benefit. Now, for Moshe, the consequences were quite historic. As a result, the people took a 40-year detour. He was unable to enter the land, and so on and so on. For all of us, while the consequences might not be as historic, they certainly are consequential. As we think carefully about whether or not the good that we feel we are doing will actually be good for the people for whom we are doing it. With that, I wish everyone a wonderful week.